goes over here. Let's see. There we go. Didn't realize my mic was unmuted. Alright, well, uh, guess I'll just go ahead and make it live, shall we? Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another 2 p.m. PST Twitch stream. I'm your host, Strange Bro Jim. And today, we got, for the lineup, we have some more studying with Pega. We got ourselves a fairly large topic, so I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of that, so buckle up for that. For the stream, we got, some more uploading videos and making them public. And then, of course, we got Warframe later on tonight. So if any of that interests you, then, you know, uh, hopefully you're sticking with me on the rest of the stream. If you're watching this later on YouTube, you're always welcome to come and join me while I do these live streams. But I will continue to put all the VODs up on my YouTube channel. So you can always catch them, after the fact as well. So either way is fine. Uh, it's all support, no matter how you look at it. So thank you everybody for joining me on this. Now, um, we are currently going to be working on Pega right now, but I want to make sure that we cover the basics at the very beginning here because I want to make sure that everybody is aware. This is not Pega endorsed. Okay, I didn't call up Pega and say, "Hey, you guys mind me doing this?" No, didn't do that. Nor did they ever contact me and say, "Hey, can you do streaming?" No, doesn't. There's no direct communication or anything along those lines. Okay, so you know, if you have that thought, remove it because it's not there. um, I'm currently working towards my certification for a system architect. Okay, so that's my end goal. Um, you know, I may try for the business architect as well, seeing that it's pretty much the same. Um, well, I mean not the same, but there's obviously differences between the two. But the business architect is, has only two modules that are different. I'll explain that a little bit later. Um, but one thing that you should know is that I'm not an authorized training partner, and this is not a instructor-led training. Okay, I want to get those points across because I don't want anybody to think otherwise. Okay. Um, Now, as I'm going through these missions to, study for the certifications, I encourage anybody to, join me on these streams, chat with me on these streams, um, or you can leave comments in the uploads that I do on my YouTube channel. Okay. I do have a playlist for Pega directly, so you can go through all the videos there, and maybe if there's a particular topic that you're struggling with, it's there, so you can try to get you know maybe I provide some amount of insight to help you out. Okay. Um, so hopefully you'll continue with me on this journey. Um, but my end goal is obviously the certifications at the end. So, um, you know, my main goal, get the system architect. Okay. Then we'll go from there. But this is my main goal. Okay. Business architect, that's a side goal, but it's still within the realms of possible. Now the senior system architect, that could be a future goal, but not something that I'm aiming for directly right at this particular moment in time. Okay. I've heard that senior system architect does help build up your knowledge for the system architect certification. So we may cover this after, um, after we're done with the system architect, so missions and modules, but we'll see. Um, but um, one thing I want to point out is the fact that business architect has the same two missions as the system architect. Okay, these two are very closely aligned with each other in that two missions there. Okay, the only thing different with the business architect is these two modules. Okay, that's the only thing that is different between these two. Okay, business architect has just these two modules, and that's it. Um, it doesn't have these 26 modules. It doesn't have these 23 challenges. So there's, so it'll be very easy for me to cover these last two modules after we're done with the two missions. And that's the plan that I have. So be prepared for that, especially if you're looking in, uh, if you're joining me for the business architect journey there. So, um, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into the missions here. We're currently on the low code app builder extended. Apparently we have 6 hours 25 minutes remaining. I don't really follow their timeline because I don't feel like they um, it often feels like it's like a speed reading. Hey, can you get through this as quickly as you can? We're going to go to the customizing UI elements, and we got 3 topics, and then the module quiz. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all these topics, but we'll see. Let's go to controls and presentation. So, controls and presentation. User interface elements, such as text inputs and layouts, present information and actionable items on the user interface. The user interface elements in Pega platform include basic controls that you use out of the box, including autocomplete controls, buttons, charts, checkboxes, drop-down lists, links, sliders, rich text editors, and probably so on and so forth. So, um, avoid using icons for controls. Use link text or button for clarity and ease of localization. Well, I mean, you can use um, you can use icons as a button, So, like for example, if you're see how I'm hovering over the Pega Academy here, if I click on it, that's going to, go back to the main homepage. So, I mean, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with that, but uh, you can reuse and customize UI elements as needed by applying existing styling to enable developers to manage controls and styling separately. Out-of-the-box UI elements, such as basic button, come with predefined style formats. Predefined or out-of-the-box button and label formats are pulled from the application skin. A Pega platform best practice is to use existing style formats unless you have an experienced UI developer that can modify existing or create new style formats. Using predefined style formats saves development time, reduces maintenance work, and improves the consistency of your application's look and feel. But at the same time, be careful with using the predefined style because then um, you're, if you're reusing one style over and over and over again, then um, you're not. Um, I mean, um, sometimes, I mean, it's kind of linked to the whole, um, human mind, obviously. Okay, if you're showing them the exact same thing over and over and over again, not really changing it up, then um, they're going to be looking at it and go, well, it's the same old, same old. There's nothing there. There's nothing. There's no change. At first glance, right? So, sometimes you may need to, change a little bit, just to, um, or yeah, obviously you can change a lot, but then you might add a layer of confusion on that as well. Um, much along, you know, I'm, let's go back to like operating systems, right? I'm going way back in time here. Windows 3.1 versus Windows 95. Windows 95 took a completely left turn in style um, compared to the original Windows 3.0 series, right? Um, and a lot of people did not like that change. Okay, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of people that were outright rejecting it um, because they did not like the heavy change that happened between those two operating systems. Okay. Um, the subtle changes are okay, are fine for the most part. There might be some people that might, prefer the old style versus the new. Um, but if you can actually prove that, you know, um, what you did with the, you know, with how it looks, maybe, you've improved performance, over that old style, then they'll come around. Okay, they're not gonna outright hate it when you can show that you have the performance to back it up, right? So, or at least one would think. um, that's not always the case. Okay, there are going to be some that are very stubborn in how they handle things. So, um, change can be something that really um, uh, change can bother a lot of people. And even though um, you know change can be a good thing, okay, not always, but you know majority of the time one would hope that it's good. But um, you know predefined style formats, you're keeping to like one particular style and not really changing it at all. So if you're like, hey, this is version 1. Hey, this is version 2. Hey, this is version 3. Hey, this is version 4. Then people are going to be looking at it and going, well, what did you change? You know? Um, so, um, if it looks the exact same every single time, um, then they may get to a point where why should I purchase version 4 when version 3 is the exact same thing? That kind of thing, right? You get that kind of mentality where it's like, what has changed in version 4 versus version 3. So, um, so while, hey, saves development time, you may have a drop in sales too, because they're going to be looking at it and going, well, why should I purchase the newest version? That kind of thing, right? So just bear that in mind. The predefined style formats for a button include standard, simple, and strong. Um, you can style all presentation elements of your interface, including typography, borders, backgrounds, layouts, and UI placement and alignment. Using a predefined style format applies a combination of those styling options. For example, you can apply a style format that styles buttons to have a black border, white background, black font color, center text, and center alignment on the interface. Applying the style format uses all the styling defined for that style format. Style formats for specific control types are reused across the application. Styling for basic controls. Presentation and styling are defined for a specific control. Depending on the control type, you can style different aspects of the control. For example, unlike a text field, a link does not have a border, meaning you do not apply a border color to a link. Some controls allow you to change the presentation of the label or caption. For example, you can add a button caption above a button or place the button label with an icon as shown in the following image. I mean, you could put a border around the link, but I mean, that might be part of the style. So, but this is styling for basic controls. So, um, if you know, let's face it, if you want to try to get something to look a certain way, then um, nothing should really stop you from doing that. So just bear that in mind. All right. When specifying text on a button, as a best practice, the text should describe the action performed and the object on which the action is performed. Provide each control with a clear and distinctive label. For example, an order confirmation view has 3 descriptive buttons. Clicking the Modify Details button allows users to modify the email, delivery address, payment method, or contact number that users provide. Consider the relative length of labels for controls that appear together at runtime. In the previous example, the 3 buttons have text of similar lengths. True. Establishing a constant look for button controls in your application saves development time, gives your application a more predictable user interface, and makes it easier for users to complete forms. Designate the style format of button control to provide a visual cue to users about the button's relative importance. For example, for a submit button on a form, set the control format option to strong as a cue to users that is the primary action that they can take on the form. In the following image, click the plus icons to read more about some of the available basic controls. Okay, text input. Text input control is an area in which the user enters a minimum amount of text. Text inputs are best for capturing short amounts of characters or numbers. For longer text inputs, use a text area or rich text editor. For example, when end users need to edit or format a long string of data, use a rich text editor. You can set the presentation of a text input control. Um, for example, when users click on text input control, the border and background changes. You can also assign a label or a tooltip to a text input control to provide user context. When the text input control or view is marked as required, the text input automatically displays an asterisk to indicate that the user input is required. Checkbox. Checkbox controls present users with an option or a list of options from which users can make multiple selections. You can use checkbox controls in groups, such as as a best practice, limit the number of checkboxes on a single form to avoid overwhelming users. Checkboxes collect binary data. For example, use a checkbox to collect a response for a yes/no question. Well, I mean, yes or no question, you can just use a button, not necessarily a checkbox, but you can use the, oh gosh, what is it called? What are they called again? Um, what were they called again? God damn it. Radio buttons. That's what they're called. God damn it. Use a radio button. Or, radio, I mean, where's a good example? Oh, they don't even have it here. Not even this is something that is helpful on that. Oh, gosh. So there was, there's some quiz questions, obviously, where it's basically says, hey, pick one out of four. Okay, you pick it, and if you try clicking on another button, it switches from like the first one to the second one. Okay, you can't, with radio buttons, you can't pick both. Okay. Um, so that's why it's like, for a simple yes or no question, use radio. Don't You don't need to use a checkbox because a checkbox allows for you to select both. Typically allows for you to select both of them, and that's not helpful to you. So, um, now, can the checkbox be converted into radio? Not sure, but I mean, right now it feels like it doesn't allow for it. Yeah, to collect non-binary data, use radio buttons instead. Well, I mean, even with binary data, with yes or no questions, you can use radio buttons. Okay, if you're only expecting one answer, to the question, use radio buttons. Okay, you know, you don't want to you don't want to give the user a yes or no question with checkboxes because they'll select both yes and no, and that that throws logic completely out the window. Okay, don't do that. So, um, I think I remember um, there was um, oh gosh. Here, let me see if I can find a bad example of checkboxes. Um, um, let me see. It's a good. I'm just trying to see if I can find like some good examples of like, hey, what's a good like, um, oh, here's an idea. Okay, so um, I just saw this image about, hey, someone did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday with checkboxes, right? So I'm suddenly thinking, okay, what happens if you're given, um, you have to basically select like the day of an accident or something like that, right? you know, did it happen on a weekday or did it happen on the weekend or something like that? They give you the 7 choices, Monday through Sunday, right? You know, and they basically say, hey, when did the accident happen? Okay. Are you going to give them checkboxes so they can select Monday through Sunday? How does that work? You get what I'm saying? So radio buttons, are kind of necessary because you're only picking, one out of the seven out of that, and it can only be one out of seven. you know. So you know, um, you know, uh, non-binary data. You can use. radio buttons for binary data too. Yes or no question is perfectly fine for radio button. I don't know what the heck they're talking about here. That this feels off. As a best practice, always label checkboxes. You can change the label orientation to display to the right or the left of the checkbox. You can style the label on a checkbox. For example, change the font to bold to indicate the important checkbox. Strong button. A button control invokes an action when users click the button. You can also use a button menu to display a cascading menu when the button is selected. You can set the button styling for existing style formats such as standard, simple, and strong. For example, you can set a button to strong when you want the button to stand out on the user interface. You can also configure a button to display an icon with or without the button label. Alright. A link control invokes an action when users click or move the pointer over the link. Links are commonly used to redirect users to a web page. Similar to a button control, the link control has a similar set of existing style formats available to use, such as simple, standard with image, and strong. For example, you can add the Facebook icon to a link for the company Facebook page. Alright, date type. To collect date or time information, use the datetime control. The datetime control enables users to select a date and time from a calendar. The datetime control allows users to easily choose a date or date range to submit, track, sort, or filter data. You can format the datetime control to display a text field, drop-down list, or calendar control. Consider using the most familiar input method for your users. For example, some users prefer inputting a date using a text field, and others for selecting a date from a calendar. Pick list. A pick list presents users from a drop-down list of items from which users can select a single item. As a best practice, avoid using a drop-down control for long lists. To save time and ensure accuracy, use a autocomplete control, which supplies users a list of possible values for an input field based on characters that the users entered. Depending on your configuration, you can categorize items within the drop-down list, or the drop-down list automatically refresh with new items whenever the property value changes. Pega Infinity has controls that support new features, such as offline capability, responsiveness, and cross-browser support. Deprecated or custom controls do not have these capabilities, so update to the controls that are shipped with Pega Infinity, or make custom controls cross-browser supported and responsive. Check your knowledge with the following interaction. Okay, um, I want to kind of touch upon this a little bit more. Okay, I've seen people build websites and they only check for one browser and one browser alone. And that's a bad way of going about doing things there, folks. Okay. Check with multiple browsers, no matter what. Okay. I don't care if you hate those particular browsers. Check it with those browsers anyway. Because while one browser may work with your current coding scheme, another browser may not. Okay, it might not work the way you want it to work. So, um, you may need to modify your code to 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 allow for it to work on that one particular browser. I know that it sucks, but let's face it, not everything has a standard of how things work. Okay, so um, there are some standards in place, but let's face it, some companies want to um, focus on other things, different differently than others. Okay, so don't feel like, um, hey, everybody's going to be using this one particular browser and there's no other browser for me or anybody else. That's a bad way of looking at it. Okay, um, because let's say, like, 1 year down the time, 5 years down the time, or something like that, everybody stops using that particular browser. Everybody goes to like, some brand new browser that everybody loves. Okay, what happens to your website then? Okay, now no one uses that one browser anymore, and now you're having to try to, play catch up or something along those lines to try to, change. Okay, like for example, let's say, um, Internet Explorer or Edge now. Um, you know, let's say everybody hated Internet Explorer, everybody hated Edge. No one uses it, blah blah blah. Okay, everybody's using Chrome, for example, right? Um, so everybody's using Chrome, everybody's in Chrome, right? And you design your website just specifically for Chrome and nothing else, right? You're not even testing for Internet Explorer. Okay. Anybody that uses Internet Explorer, the web page just completely fails on you, and it doesn't work. Okay. For one thing, you're kind of limiting the customer base, but whatever. We move on from that, right? Let's say they change Chrome in some fashion that everybody hates. You know, everybody hates the new change, blah blah blah. So they looked for another browser, and guess what? Edge is doing the exact same thing that, they wanted their browser to do. Okay. It has like the best performance and so on and so forth. So everybody switches back over to Edge, and, you know, and now you have a website that just does not work for the general populace anymore. So what are you going to do? Are you going to try to say, but Chrome, it still works, it still works on my, no. Okay. You're just going to be shooting yourself in the foot. You're going to be failing customers, and you're going to fail as a business if you keep to that kind of mindset. Okay. Um, so be comfortable in the idea of, you know, uh, allowing for different, um, be comfortable with change. Because if you're not, then you're in for a rude awakening. So, which two of the following are examples of user interface elements that you can add to a view? Choose two. So we have text inputs and links. So now I'm going to select data objects and dashboard because those are the wrong answers, just to see the incorrect, or to see what they state here. So UI elements can display data that is sourced from data objects, but data objects are not UI elements. And the dashboard is a landing page, not a UI element. So yeah, we have links and text inputs, and those are the ones that you can use. So um, links are action UI elements that you can add to a view. Text inputs are data capture UI elements that you can add to a view. So okay, and we are done with this particular topic. So let's move on to the next one. Um, Ooh, there is a lot of data here. We'll see if I can get through it all in the 15 minutes. So, dynamic functionality on UI elements. Dynamic UI design. Dynamic UI design is the practice of designing a user interface to adapt according to user input. When designing a dynamic user interface, you control the fields that users see and interact with, according to specified conditions. Dynamic UI content is a key element of an intent-driven UI design. Choices made by users drive what controls are displayed so that only relevant fields are presented. For example, when submitting a loan request, customers specify their marital status. If customers select married, the application displays user entry fields for their partner. If the center of the in the center of the following image, drag the vertical line to see the loan request with single and married selected. So for single, and then for married. As you can see, you have the borrower information, first and last name, and then the partner information when they're married. But, the partner information isn't necessarily needed for when the marital status is single. So, hence, here's the radio buttons at work here. Okay. You can't both be single and married at the same time. If you use checkboxes here, that won't work. you know, how is the display going to handle when both of them are checked off? Is it going to show exactly like this? Very confusing, right? All right. The benefits of using dynamic UI design include real-time response to end-user behavior, robust functionality available for most user interactions, reduced visual clutter on the screen, and fewer full-page refreshes, which results in improved UI responsiveness. Dynamic attributes for UI elements. To configure a dynamic behavior for UI elements, you can manipulate when elements are visible and disabled. Visible. Configure the visibility of a field or layout to display the field or layout when a specific condition is satisfied. By default, UI elements have a visibility setting of always, meaning the UI element always displays on the screen. The following table contains other visibility setting options. So when the visibility setting is always, then it always displays. So the text box right here, you want the name field where the application user enters their name to be visible always. So same with say username and password. Now you could say hey, I want username to be displayed first before they enter in the password. Maybe you want to check the username to see whether or not the username is is correct in your database. Maybe you're checking the database for if the username is indeed correct, right? Um, you could do that if you really wanted to, but I mean that might be a little bit more work than what you really need. But I'm just kind of putting it as an example. So, okay, condition expression displays when an expression can be a when rule returns true. Use this option for short expressions that you do not need to reuse throughout your case. So, meat preference: meat, fish, vegetarian, special meat, and then a drop down. If your user chooses special meal. Oh, this is meal preference, not meat preference, huh? Um, the type of meal drop-down list is displayed. Otherwise, your drop-down list is not displayed. You determine that this is the only place where you need this expression, so it is appropriate to use the condition expression option. So, if this is selected, the drop-down shows. If it's not selected, it doesn't need to be shown, that kind of thing. So, condition when rule displays if a when rule returns true. Use this option for more complex when rules or for when rules you reuse throughout the case type. So if you select married, then name of the spouse text box is shown. If you select single, then obviously you don't need that text box, right? So when you create a when rule, when marital status is equal to married, which you plan to reuse, You'll reference this when rule so that when the user selects married as their marital status, the name of the spouse field is visible. Name of spouse is not visible otherwise. If not blank. Displays if the value of the field is not blank. Next appointment date, and then date there. When confirming a doctor's appointment, patients can optionally select a date for their next appointment. If patients select a date, the next appointment date field is visible. If the patient does not select a date, the next appointment date field is hidden. I mean, you're not really showing much here. Here, let me see if I expand it. Nope, it's not. It's not really that visible right at the moment. So, kind of odd, but I'm not sure what they're trying to go for here, but that seems like it's that can be a little rough. So like if you start like trying to type in there, is it going to be trying to like automatically change it to the next appointment date or something like that? So are you going to be like trying to wrestle control with the text field in that particular case? I don't know. It feels a little, might be a little rough. If not zero. Displays if the value of the field is not zero. When customers make an online purchase, their order total is calculated. If the order total field is greater than zero, then it displays. If the calculated order total is zero, then the order total is hidden. They need to have a little bit more visuals on these two, I think, because I feel like they are not showing like a good image for both of these. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and mention that. Just so that they can maybe the example for not blank and not zero. And examples feel like they aren't showing a full picture. Maybe include a before and after, like you did in the previous examples. All right. Yeah, because I kind of like the, like this example here. That they didn't really do us like a before and after here, but still. All right, disabled. Configure when a field or layout is disabled or limit user access to a field. A field or layout is disabled when the specific condition is satisfied. By default, UI elements are never disabled, meaning users always have access to the UI elements. The following table displays options for disabling UI elements. Disable setting, never disabled. So you want a user to always be able to enter their name in the name field. So, so it's never disabled. always disabled. So a customer chooses the type of account when opening a bank account. After account creation, the customer can see but not modify the account type. You configure the account type field to be disabled always to achieve this behavior. Um, Now that might work if that's like their only account, like they only have, the one checking account. But what happens if they have a checking and savings? So, um, so bear in mind that, you might not always you might not always want it disabled. So, just saying. Um, you may need a expression to verify, like, hey, do you want it disabled? Or do you not want it disabled? So, condition expression. Disabled when an expression can be a when rule returns true. So, preferred contact method, email, text. So, when they select email, the email control is not disabled, but when they select text, then it swaps. If the user selects email as their preferred contact method, the mobile number field is disabled. If the user selects text as their preferred method, the email field is disabled. You determine that this is the only place where you need the expression, so it is appropriate to use the condition expression option. Okay, condition when rule. Disabled if a when rule returns true. You reference a when rule when age is greater than or equal to 21, so that when a customer applies for a credit card, if the customer is greater than or equal to 21 years of age, the cosigner information field is disabled. So, the company is basically saying, hey, you know, um, you're going to need a cosigner if you want this credit card under the age of 18 or under the age of 21. So, so they put that little condition in as well. So, I mean, sure, but you know, like it, you know, this can be very, you know, can be very focused. So, you know, you might not necessarily use this particular example, but I mean, just bear in mind what you can do for that. You know, um, let's see. Um, Maybe you want to use it for this up here, like when um, when customer has only one account, disable account type. If the user has more than one, then uh, enable or never disable, that kind of thing. So required. Configure when a field or layout is required to ensure that the user specifies a value. A field or layout is required when a specified condition is satisfied. By default, by default, UI elements are never required, meaning the user can proceed with case processing without specifying a value. The following table displays options for making UI elements required. So never required. Email, you want the email field to be optional but not required for users. Always required. When customers open a bank account, they must choose the account type. The account type field is always required. Um, here's the thing that I would be saying in this particular example is, like, maybe they want like two different accounts, or maybe they want all your accounts. Maybe they want checking, savings, 401k, so on and so forth. So limiting them to like maybe only one field might not necessarily be something that you know they want they might not want to have the headache of having to reapply for every single different types, account types, kind of thing, right? So maybe not necessarily a drop down would be very useful. You know, I would almost say, maybe use a checkbox option here. Obviously, still required, but still, checkbox is probably something that I would probably do in this particular case. That way, they can enter in the information and it can be applied to all different types of account types. Just saying, as an example. Okay. Condition expression. Required when the expression can be a when rule returns true. So preferred contact method, um, email, text. So they're basically saying that um, if they select email, then the email gets the required. If they select text, then the mobile number is required. Um, I mean, that's an interesting way of going about doing it. Um, but at the same time, um, they might not want either one of those. You know, um, maybe they just prefer a straight phone call. Now what are they gonna do? So, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. If the user selects email as a preferred contact method, the email field is required. If the user selects text as a preferred contact method, the mobile number field is required. You determine that this is the only place where you can need the expression, so it is appropriate to use the condition expression option. Condition when rule. Required if a when rule returns true. So you reference a when rule when age is less than 21 so that when a customer applies for a credit card, if the customer is less than 21 years of age, the cosigner information field is required. Otherwise, providing cosigner information is optional. So, check your knowledge with the following interaction. Drag the visibility option to the appropriate field. You're designing a view for online order confirmation. If the customer selects a checkbox, is this order a gift? The gift note field is visible. So, um, so we want this to always be visible. All right. Um, and it's a checkbox. So 0 and blank doesn't work. You want to use the condition expression. So and that's it for that. Okay. So we've covered two topics here, but we weren't able to get through all of it. Okay, we covered the first two. So we're going to be going through event processing with action sets and then the module quiz tomorrow. So look forward to that. But that's where we're going to go ahead and end our Pega study session for now. Uh, hopefully you enjoyed the uh, this 1 hour session. If so, you know, if you're watching this later on YouTube, feel free to do, all that normal, YouTube watcher stuff that is helpful for us creators. That'd be awesome. Um, Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for watching. Hopefully I catch you on either the next stream or the next video. Either one is perfectly fine. And yeah, that's where we're going to go ahead and stop it for today. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Stopping the recording now.